Day seven, it is day 7 of 31 as we walk and journey through the book of Proverbs. So, of course, day 7, we are looking at chapter 7. And today I want to focus on verses 6 through 15. I know that it's quite a few verses, and I'm not really pulling the full story together, but I didn't want to overwhelm you with reading today. But I just have to remind us that there is so much value in wisdom. And as I read this, I want you to ask yourself, where are you going? I'm asking myself, where are you headed? Where are you going? So let's read Proverbs 7, verses 6 through 15. It says, while I was at the window of my house looking through the curtain. And guys, remember, we've been talking about how Solomon wrote a ton of these Proverbs. So whether he is saying this in first person, that he actually experienced this and he was watching this, or whether he's giving it almost as a parable or something for us to understand, but he's speaking almost in first person here. So let me start back. And he says, while I was at the window of my house looking through the curtain, I saw some naive young man, and one in particular. So he saw some young naive men, but it was one in particular who lacked common sense. He was crossing the street near the house of an immoral woman, strolling down the path by her house. It was at twilight in the evening as deep darkness fell. The woman approached him, seductively dressed and sly of heart. She was the brash, rebellious type, never content to stay at home. She is often in the streets and markets, soliciting at every corner. She threw her arms around him and kissed him, and with a brazen look, she said, I've just made my peace offering and fulfilled my vows. You're the one I was looking for. I came out to find you, and here you are. Now, as a reminder, even before you get to verse 6, verses 1 through 5 is already setting us up again, where Solomon's saying again, hey, my son, my child, please follow my advice, because the commands that I give to you, they are treasures. He said, I want you to hold on to this wisdom that I'm giving to you. And in verse 3, he says, I even want you to take them and tie them around your finger as a reminder. And I don't know if you've ever done that or ever seen that. I remember seeing teachers do that when I was younger, but it's like when somebody wanted to remind themselves of something, they would tie something on their finger. Or remember, we used to write stuff on our hands back in the day so that we did not forget. And that's the same concept of what he's saying. I want you to put this in a place that you don't forget it, that you keep it ever before you, that no matter where you are, what you do, you've got this reminder. And so as he's saying that, he leads into saying, now let me basically tell you this story. There was a day that I, Solomon, was watching through the window, and I see all these young men, but there was one in particular that lacked common sense. He's basically saying there was one in particular that was naive. And here, that lacking common sense or being naive comes with this concept of a person that has not really associated themselves with their purpose. They don't understand what their purpose or their role is in life. They are aimlessly walking. They are without aim. They are without direction. And basically saying their life is almost like it's empty or it's unstable. It's an unstable life. Because when our lives are unstable, when we do not have purpose that we are walking out or walking toward, we will find ourselves much more vulnerable to temptation. And that is the picture that Solomon is painting here for us to gain wisdom from. He's saying, I see all these men out here, these young men, but this one is standing out because they're walking foolishly. And today I want us to ask ourselves, where are you going? If we were to peer out over the group, and look at you being amongst people, do you stand out as one that knows where they're going, that has aim, that has direction, that has focus? Or could somebody sit back and watch you or watch me and say, this one here is naive. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know where they're going. They have no focus. And Solomon's saying this is dangerous here. And what's interesting that I want to point out here is he's saying naive also comes with this concept of having a body without a mind. A lot of the Bible is very pictorial. It is painting a picture. So it's almost like this person being aimless is obvious because it's like the picture of someone walking aimlessly, this body, but it does not have, or he does not have, a mind. And again, with none of this am I picking on our brothers. I'm talking to us as women and as men, as the body, as men and women, hopefully, of God. And so then he goes further and he says that the guy is walking and he's aimless and he's crossing the street near the house of an immoral woman. And it doesn't show anything here like the guy had any intention or intent. It doesn't speak as if he was going there and he knew this is where he was going. No, it's because he didn't know where he was going. He was finding himself in places and spaces and in front of faces that he should not have been in front of. It's very similar as, being this animal and you have become prey and you don't even know it. I want us to be wise, guys, to where we're not aimlessly walking. The Bible even says, like an ox being led to the slaughter. And this ox is so dumb in that it doesn't even know it's on its way to be killed. Ah, man. I even pause right there to think about our young people. Yeah. If you're listening to this when we close, why don't you just take a moment and pray for all young people, but especially those young people that are in your life, those young people that you have access to, because that's what we look like, just aimless. And this world and its systems and its foolishness has us lacking common sense. Verse 9, you guys said, not only is he strolling past a house that he shouldn't have been in that space, look how deep verse 9 goes. It says, it was at twilight, that's a time frame. In the evening, that's a time frame. As deep darkness fell. Do you see how the time shifted? Man, and do you see how not only did the time shift, the darkness grew deeper? I don't want us to miss this because this is just not showing the time or the darkness outside. It is showing the time and the darkness of the hour. It is showing his walk becoming darker and darker. Man, y'all, that's touching me. Whew. Where are you going? Where am I going? Because these are the places and spaces that we should be fleeing from, not fleeing to. But because this young man doesn't have that common sense, that common thread, and we see this so much, even in those that are of age, as I like to say, many of us are in that same space. And I don't know who it is, but I want to encourage you today, if you have found yourself in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, and you're in this space and you're still aimlessly walking like this, can I remind you of how dangerous this is? Because just like verse 9 says, excuse me, it was at twilight. It was in the evening. And then a deep darkness fell. I want to encourage you today to know where you're going. because it talks about when this woman finds him, again, it is almost like it's an animalistic nature. And I don't know if you and I realize that. Like, if our soul has not been saved, there is something about that old nature that is very animalistic, and that she was looking and watching for her prey. Says that she was dressed very seductively and her heart was sly. She was brash and rebellious, content never to stay at home. And you'll read later in this particular proverb, this woman was married. And she was doing this while her husband was away on business. But it says, but she's often in the streets. Jeez. She's often in the market, soliciting at every corner. And when she finds this young man, she throws her arms around him and kisses. And can you imagine, if you don't know where you're going or what you're doing, if you are in darkness, someone giving you that type of attention, that type of play, as we would call it, yeah, you would feel some type of way about it. And obviously, because he doesn't know any better, he's getting to a space of wanting to embrace it back. He's flattered. Be careful of flattery. Flattery can lead you into a dark space. I've told y'all before, I don't talk about nothing I have not experienced or have not seen secondhand. She goes further and says, I've just made my peace offerings and fulfilled my vows. This woman is speaking as if, I've taken care of my business. And she's talking about these peace offerings and almost has this concept as if when we read this, as if she's taking care of her spiritual duties. But then she goes forth and said, you're the one I was looking for. Oh, that really is kind of creeping me out right now. I came out to find you, and here you are. The prey that she was looking for, the weakness that she was looking for, was found in the man that didn't know where he was going. It will be found in the woman that does not know where she is going. Can I remind you that when we don't know where we're going, we will meander and find ourselves in places that we don't belong. We'll find ourselves in places that we shouldn't be because we don't have any direction. A man or a woman, a man with direction does not stumble upon a harlot's bedroom. A man with direction, he didn't just slip and fall into the arms of an harlot. Why? Because a man with direction is pursuing a different type of woman. Let me flip that, ladies. A woman with direction is pursuing a different type of man. Now, don't kill me right there, because I know some women are saying right now, we're not supposed to be pursuing a man, blah, blah. That's not what I'm saying. The man's supposed to find the wife. I get all that. But in the same token, I know when I was single, there was a certain type of man. There's a certain type of man when it came to thinking about marriage that he had to be, because once my light came on, once the direction was set, it had to be a certain type. So I leave us today with, what are you pursuing? Who are you pursuing? What kind of situation, or what type of man, what type of woman, if you are single, are you pursuing? And if you're married, have you and your spouse sat down and set the course or the direction of your marriage? And therefore, when you do, you can remove some of the temptations that are set up to try to trip you up. But the naive man or the naive woman that comes out in the streets, strolling down a street that they don't know where they're going, you and I can find ourselves in the hands of someone, or in the hands of a situation, or in a place, or in darkness, when that was never really our intent. So I leave us today. Where are you going?